everyone, it's Sharana from Para Waits, and today we're going to be reviewing Insecure Season 4, Episode 7, Low Key Trippin'. And I was really shocked at the opening of this week's episode because I didn't know that Molly actually saw Issa get out of the car to come to the Ethiopian spot. So we see that Molly was sitting there giving a complicated order, and I was like, you know what, Molly, people give you a lot of flack, but I felt you when you said, like, I felt you in your complicated order. Now, I normally tell people, hey, I'm going to have a complicated order, but we're going to get through this together real quick. But we see as she gives her order and then she happens to look outside, she sees that Issa is about to come into the restaurant. And so Molly tries to act like, you know, she's in her phone or whatnot. But then by the time that she looks up again, she sees that Issa obviously had to have seen Molly sitting there at the bar. She decides to leave. And so this had Molly shook. Because she was telling Andrew, like, what happened, but she didn't have to say that Issa ran away like she was running away from a job. I said, you know what? I said I wasn't going to be petty, but I had to calculate when she said that. I was just like, the shade and the accuracy of it all, I just couldn't take it. But you know what, you guys? Andrew and Molly are going on their first vacation. Now, I had to take a time out and tell Insecure how disrespectful they are because you had us wanting to wobble at the block party 2 episodes ago, knowing that we can't go nowhere, knowing that we can't congregate how we want to congregate, and now you're going to go out the country? You're going to go to Mexico? You know, that's a cute little hop, skip, and a jump, a little cheap, all-inclusive little getaway. I can't believe that you would do this to us, but they're actually going on vacation. She's going to be meeting Andrew's brother and her sister-in-law, and so, you know, I was just like, man, there's so many ways that this can go, but I'm going to claim that this is going to go positive for Molly because Molly is trying to find growth in her life right now as she enters her new season of being away from Issa. But can I just get a side note about her assistant who, like, didn't tell her that she had a meeting knowing that she's about to go on vacation? I felt like she should have been fired. I felt like, ma'am, you knew that I was going out of the country. Like, why? How do you forget? How are you too busy? What you doing? You working cases? Or are you supposed to be assisting me? So if you was busy assisting me, then I would have known about the meeting that I was having before I was supposed to go out of the country. Because I probably could have rescheduled it, moved it up, worked later on Friday so I could leave on Monday. I was really bothered by that. That really bothered my spirit for some reason. But we see that they end up getting to the airport. Molly almost misses her flight, but she made it. It's okay. She got her little cardio in, and then Andrew got a little cardio in with his hands. I said, ooh, you nasty, Andrew. I like it. Ooh. But Kim Fields, her character, I was just like, ma'am. See, this is why when I get on the airplane, I put my headphones on. Don't talk to me. We didn't come together. Why are you talking to me? I hate when people talk to me on airplanes. Unless you're like, hey, can I get this or can I get that? That's fine. But don't talk to me outside of that. We're not friends. We didn't book these tickets together. We didn't make sure that we could sit next to each other so we can kiki. Don't talk to me. But her character was funny, though. She was only trying to make it through day 3, y'all. We're going to cut her a little bit of slack. So they meet up at the hotel lobby, and then his brother is like, hey, like, I know you guys are tired. You need to get your lives together. And I was like, okay, thank you for understanding that, because some people, they just be doing the most. But then when he said, I'll see y'all in 15 minutes, I said, sir, what are we supposed to do in 15 minutes? I can't even take a whole bath in 15 minutes. What are we doing right now? I don't like people like that who like to plan every single minute of your vacation. It's a vacation because I'm going to do what I want when I feel like doing it with no schedule. I can't stand people like that. That's why I like to travel solo on vacations for that reason alone. So, you know what? Molly takes us in stride. She was like, it's okay. We'll come back downstairs. But then remember, Molly said she had him a little something for the little trip, for the little vacation. I was like, oh, Molly, what you got? Because he already being nasty on this plane, girl, so you got to come with it. And then when she pulled out a matching bra and panties, I said, bitch, what is this? I've been matching my panties with my bra since college. That was my New Year's. What was that? That was my senior year New Year's resolution. I said I was going to match my panties with my bras and get my ish together. Girl, I've been doing that since college. Why did you think that was such a big thing? Then Andrew pulled out all these toys and stuff. I was like, yeah, like that's kind of where I was. I was in the same mind space that Andrew had. But you know what? He said, it's okay. My baby a little basic. He didn't say that, but he was thinking that while we were thinking it at the same time. But then, you know what? They got it in on a balcony. I said, oh, Andrew, you better. Lord, send me an Andrew, okay? Because I see what you are doing for others and I want you to do it for me too, all right? So they getting it in. They got it in so much that they didn't even make it downstairs, okay? They was in for the rest of the night. And then they had like a nice little 3-mile hike and I was just like, See the way my asthma is set up? Molly was doing really great on this trip because when I say somebody like Victor would have annoyed me by then, so you want me to do a whole 3-mile hike? You didn't ask was I athletic, if I didn't have any asthma conditions, like you didn't ask what my lung capacity was looking like. But you know, I was like, Molly, look at you. Like, you taking this better than I would have. So she gets to the top and then she understands. She was like, you know what? This was all worth it. And then they go zip lining. I'm sorry, my little god baby got me sick, child. So if my voice go out, please just let me live for a moment. But they go zip lining, which is really fun. If you gotta tell me what zip lining is, super fun. And so like, I just really felt like this entire episode that Molly and Andrew are like having such a great time. Like they were having such a good time that I was like, man, like I think we're gonna get it through an episode without Molly doing something crazy. But of course, we knew that had to come to an end slowly but surely, okay? But before we get into the commotion at the pool with Victor, we do have to talk about the fact that Andrew realizes he has missed phone calls from Nathan. And so he calls Nathan back, and then essentially Nathan was like, hey, like the garage isn't opening, and so he kind of helps him. But then we hear Issa's voice in the background, so Molly looking like, what is she doing with him? Like, what is going on? Like, how's she going to go? She just want to be messy all the time. That's why she going back to him after he did her like that. And then he was like, wait a minute. Like, Nathan was dealing with some stuff. And she was like, dealing with what? And then he was like, well, he was dealing with mental issues. And then she was like, oh, I didn't know. And then I'm just like, I'm glad that we're bringing this up again, because if we're going to keep it real and keep it 100, they kind of just ended it so abruptly. Like Nathan said he had mental issues and nobody like went to go investigate that. Since that is like a common problem, you know, in the Black community about us like seeking help for mental issues, having a therapist, having a safe place to talk, being able to actually share your thoughts and your feelings, especially as a Black man. Like, I felt as though that should have been something that should have been explored. So I hope, because we brought this up again, that this is something that we're going to delve a little bit deeper into. Because I was like, Molly, while you sitting up here talking smack, she probably would have had the time to have the discussion with Nathan in regards to his mental issues. But remember, you took that opportunity away from her when you told Nathan that he needed to leave, that he couldn't come see Issa. Remember that? I'm just saying, if you want to talk about how he didn't say what the issue was, you took that away from both of them. So I was just like, girl, sometimes you got to remember all the mess you did in the past. But the biggest thing is we see that Molly gets into an altercation with the towel lady. And so Molly's waiting to get a towel. Victor's wife, she had something going in her eye, so her eye was burning, so she went to go get a towel to help her. And so as she's waiting for the towel, she sees that the lady gives this white couple in front of them the towel, doesn't ask them for anything. And so when Molly comes up, she's like, hey, I'm going to need a key card. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my key card on me, but I'm like here at this resort. So the lady gives her a hard time. She tells her no. And so Molly got annoyed, as I think anybody would have. And so Victor ends up seeing the commotion. He's like, hey, here's my card. And then she hands him the towel. But Molly snatched that towel right up out of that lady's hand. And I felt her. And so when they get back to the pool, Andrew can see that something's wrong with Molly. And then they get into this discussion about race. And so I was wondering when it was going to come up, because there has been a long, like, kind of just like an unspoken thing between African Americans, Asian Americans in regards to race. Like, we kind of seen some of these things, how they played out in the early 90s with some issues that happened in California. So I found it very interesting that they did decide to bring up this topic of race, but more importantly, talking about how when he tells her, like, you know, do you think there is a better way that you could have handled that situation? Or, you know, we're on vacation. Like, you shouldn't let her get the best of you. You shouldn't let that she's being discriminatory against you. You shouldn't let it bother you, because, like, we all deal with race. And so she was just looking at him like, we all deal with race now. But at the end of the day, with you guys, you only talk about being a minority, being a POC when it benefits you. And so I was like, ooh, Andrew looked at her like, excuse me? And she was like, well, not you. You're different. But I was just like, Molly, Now, I felt Molly on this because this is a thing where, they talk about how Asian Americans, that they're like the role model minority group. And, until we got into like this whole pandemic thing, they didn't understand what it was being a minority. But I ain't trying to get in trouble on this thing. I'm just talking about from what I see. Okay, I'm talking from my own personal experience. All right, I'm not generalizing anyone, but there has been a long-standing thing between African Americans and Asian Americans when it comes to race, especially here in America. And so I thought that it was a very interesting topic to happen. And while I did understand what Molly was coming from, and I do understand, I think that what we need to do is like, just because it didn't offend you doesn't mean that it didn't offend me. And it doesn't mean that just because you didn't see race, that I didn't see that it was a race thing. So where I thought that Molly was right in how she felt, I think it was the delivery and the fact that you're on vacation with, this is your first time meeting his family. You could have handled that better. You could have been like, hey, Victor, I just don't think that this is, what, you're right. No, not you're right. Be like, what, we are on vacation and I just don't really want to get into race relation discussions like while we're out of the country. So I'm just going to let it go and we're going to move forward. But that would be a conversation that me and Andrew would have to have when we got back to the room. And so I kind of hate that Molly walks away because she's upset. She basically tells Victor to F him. Woo, woo, woo. But I wish that there was a discussion that her and Andrew had. And I feel that Andrew lets a lot of things slide. And I don't know if it's just, he has a hard time talking about his feelings, as he said. But I felt like that should have been a discussion. Like, that's something that we needed to discuss when we got back to the room. Maybe if we weren't ready, we need to let his cool off, at night. But like, I felt like in the morning, he just dismissed that way too quick. Like, especially since Victor and his wife, they went to do their own thing. They were going to do their own thing. But I felt like that was a conversation that needed to be discussed, because it would give me a red flag. Like, if your brother feels this way, then how does the rest of your family feel? And especially since we're in an interracial relationship, I need to understand like how your family feels about like my culture, about my people. I think that's something that should have been a discussion. And maybe they wanted to just let stuff go while they were on vacation. I get that. But I do feel like because of how things went from 0 to 100 real quick, I think that warranted a discussion even while they were on vacation. But one of the things that I did appreciate from Molly is understanding that she's been having a really hard time. And whether some of the things are kind of self-inflicted or just like victim of circumstance, I do feel that it was a very great idea for her to call her therapist to schedule an appointment. And I think this gets into self-care. Like, just because you might not be going through anything, that doesn't mean you need to stop therapy. Like, I just think that that's something that's just, I look at therapy like a self-care type of thing. Like, that's just something to help me take care of myself, to help me make sure that I'm balanced at all times, that if a situation does arise, that I do have the tools necessary to deal with it. So I thought it was very nice for them to include that. And because they're including that, I hope that we get a discussion about Nathan in a later episode. But we see that they end up going back to the airport. And so as they arrive back to Cali, they run into Lawrence. And so Lawrence was coming back from a trip. And then I was like, Molly, I felt you with the Full House reference. I was like, you got it, dude. And I was like, yeah, Full House, because he wasn't here. But clearly no one else felt it. But I was like, it was okay, Molly, because they didn't understand. It went above their heads, okay? But there was nothing wrong with what you did. But we see that as Lawrence is kind of leaving, we see that he ends up making a phone call saying like, hey, I've been thinking about you, I have something to tell you, and then the episode goes off. But side note, did Kim feels that her character, was that her ex-husband, or did she find her a new boo thing at the resort? I just need to know the answers to that question. But back to Lawrence, like, who do you guys think he called? Do you feel as though he called condolences? Do you feel like he called Issa? We see in the preview for next week's episode that he does end up hanging out with Issa. I think that Lawrence has probably found a new job and he's actually going to be relocating and moving, and he wanted to like have the discussion with Issa. But I do feel like he probably called condolences as well because he didn't want to leave things like on a bad note. I'm not sure. Those are just like my quick little thoughts about it. But I really like this episode. I like that they showed that Black people travel, because for some reason, like, some people only think the time that Black people go travel is like when it's the Housewives of Atlanta or somebody on a reality TV show when they take their trip out of the country. But honey, we be traveling, okay? We go out the country. So I love that they have these positive representation of Black people traveling. I like that they do show kind of the, sticky situations you can find yourselves in when you're in a interracial relationship. Like, you and your partner may be compatible and you and your partner may understand what each of you go through as a POC, but that doesn't mean that their family like sees it the same way. And that I know from like someone who's witnessed friends being in interracial relationships, like that does become like a hard pill to swallow once you realize like, hey, your boo thing might be cool, but boo thing's parents, that's a whole nother story. So I like that they're starting to explore this, and I really do hope that Andrew and Molly have a discussion about it, because I feel like they like to sweep a lot of stuff under the rug and ignore certain issues that they have as a couple because they're trying so hard to just make it work. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys thought. Would you have cursed Victor the F out like Molly did? Or would you have played it cool because you know what, that's his family, I'm going to be respectful? Tell me what you guys would have did in the comment section below. And what did you think of this week's episode, which I really enjoyed this episode this week. But those are my thoughts on Insecure Season 4, Episode 7, Low Key Trippin'. As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weight. And if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. I'll see you soon.